Now the calm characterizing the reigns of Hadrian and Antoninus Pius suddenly ended. Famine and floods struck Italy. There were earthquakes in Asia, and the army in Britannia revolted. More threatening than these, the vast Parthian Empire attacked Syria and replaced the friendly king of Armenia with a man hostile to Rome. Lucius, the co-emperor, was sent east to deal with this threat and prevailed. But out of this success came an even worse disaster. The army returned with a plague. Scholars estimate that the plague killed off as many as a third of those living in the empire at the time, decimating the army, destroying the tax base, and exhausting the treasury, causing massive food shortages and undermining the empire's self-confidence. No sooner were the Parthians subdued and the traditional triumph celebrated in Rome than land-hungry German tribes began to invade the empire. Marcus Aurelius, last of the 5 good emperors, possessed a lot of positive attributes. Good timing, apparently, wasn't one of them. Before Marcus ascended to the pinnacle of the Roman Empire, his 4 predecessors ushered in and enjoyed the Pax Romana, an age of peace and prosperity that encompassed the whole empire. The opening passage I just quoted, borrowed from the introduction to the Emperor's Handbook, describes the events that unfolded after Marcus Aurelius assumed the position of emperor. Like I said, not the best timing. Almost from the onset, Marcus's reign was plagued by misfortunes of every imaginable kind. Of course, Marcus himself wouldn't have agreed with that statement. As he says in his journals, "The next time you're tempted to complain of your bad luck, remember to apply this maxim. Bad luck born nobly is good luck." I have a hard time describing the admiration and affection I have for this man who's been dead for almost 2,000 years. In many ways, Marcus is the first real role model I ever had. The first exemplar whose approach, attitude, and demeanor I wished to cultivate in myself. Whereas Christians ask, what would Jesus do? I often find myself wondering, what would Marcus do? It's not that I agree with every single thing he said or did, nor that I could not find any fault in him. To the contrary, his life and journals reveal a flawed and imperfect man, acutely aware of his own shortcomings and habits. A man who struggled daily against his impulses and desires, and who coached himself tirelessly to follow those principles and ideas he wished to embody. It's this sense of struggle and the way he goes about overcoming this struggle that inspires me. And of course, the observations, principles, and arguments he lays forth in his journals resonated deeply with me when I first read them, shortly after what I call my cubicle epiphany, when I was searching for answers. It's no coincidence that I found this book, or rather that it found me at this critical moment in my life. Without Marcus's guidance, I might not have embarked on the path upon which I currently travel. So without further ado, let's get into it. The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor's Handbook. Marcus's life, the example he set, and the philosophy by which he lived are more relevant now than ever before, because the issues that Marcus grappled with during his life, a pandemic, wars, civil war, chronic illness, betrayal, questions of morality and values, a search for meaning and truth, have only intensified since his death in the year 180 CE. The way he dealt with these struggles provides a blueprint for anyone who seeks to leverage adversity into advantage and transform obstacles into opportunities. It provides exercises and observations that can help us attain inner peace, cultivate gratitude, and experience a sense of kinship with our fellow humans and, indeed, the whole of creation. And the philosophy that informed his behavior, Stoicism, the source of his outstanding performance as a human being and powerful ruler, can help guide us through our own struggles and calamities with equal success. By all accounts, the 12 books of the Meditations are Marcus's private journals. And when I say journal, I don't mean Dear Diary, today a girl I like asked me out on a date. It was the best day ever. This journal was a reference point to keep him on the straight and narrow. Each entry is a reminder, an observation, or even an admonition, pointing to a Stoic idea or principle that would help him act reasonably and in harmony with nature. And these are two recurring themes in the Meditations, by the way: living in accordance with nature and reason. But it goes deeper than that. Not only did Marcus wish to adapt himself to nature and to guide his thoughts and actions with reason, he also regarded both of these as divine forces, and in some passages you get the sense that he not only studied but worshipped these and was awed by them, in the same way Christians are awed by God. There are other recurring themes in the Meditations: the kinship of human beings to one another, the impermanent nature of reality, acceptance of things we can't control, the importance of inner freedom, and the power of perspective. Marcus repeats and revisits these ideas over and over and over again as a way to imprint them onto his own soul. As he says himself, the mind is dyed by the color of our thoughts. His journals, then, can be seen as an attempt to paint his thoughts, and thus his own mind, with Stoic principles and maxims. And just what is Stoicism, this philosophy you've probably been hearing more and more about? It's a philosophy that originated in Athens and eventually took root in Rome. Founded by Zeno of Citium, it got its name from the Stoa Poikile, or painted porch, where Zeno used to lecture in the Agora. It eventually found its way to Rome and became an influential school of thought. The central goal of Stoicism is to live in accordance with nature, and the highest good in Stoic philosophy is virtue, meaning both specific qualities like wisdom, courage, morality, and moderation, but also virtue in a more general sense, meaning excellence. And the idea is that when we live in accordance to nature, guided by reason in the pursuit of virtue for its own sake, because it's the highest good, we benefit from a side effect which they called eudaimonia, which roughly means a sense of inner peace and equanimity. The result is that we're largely unaffected by things like misfortune, pain, and insults. Things that once disturbed us no longer have much of an effect, and we can maintain a sunny disposition, not as a facade or for show, and in fact, the Stoics consider outer appearances to be irrelevant and of little importance, but because we actually cease to feel anger, anxiety, and fear in the face of such experiences. Now, this doesn't happen overnight or without effort, but if you follow the protocol, engage with the practices and exercises provided, and stick with it a while, you will experience the results. Now, personally, I don't identify as a Stoic for reasons we can discuss at a later date. The main reason is that Stoicism, like all labels, limit and restrict who we can be and what we can do. I also feel that Stoicism is an incomplete system. There are gaps, and I like being able to fill those gaps how and where I see fit. That being said, the ideas and principles laid out by Marcus and the other Roman Stoics, Musonius Rufus, Epictetus, and Seneca, have had a major impact on me and are a foundational part of my personal philosophy. Having used many aspects of Stoicism on a daily basis for the last 7 years, I can attest to their effectiveness and their usefulness. And I'm not alone. For fascinating examples of field Stoicism, look up Admirals James Stockdale or Viktor Frankl, who both demonstrate what Stoic principles can do for us in the most painful and even terrifying circumstances. Now here's another tidbit about Stoicism. It's the basis for cognitive behavioral therapy, which is considered by many experts to be the most effective form of therapy around today. The founder of Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, which is a precursor to modern CBT, plainly admitted that he got his ideas from Epictetus, whose works also happen to serve as Marcus's own introduction to Stoic philosophy. All of this to say, Marcus and the Stoics have a lot to offer human beings living in these strange and uncertain times. Starting tomorrow, I'll be posting audio recordings of The Emperor's Handbook, as narrated by yours truly, one book at a time for the next 12 weeks. Each week, I'll drop short commentary videos focusing on select passages that I find valuable, and I encourage you, if you're following along, to do the same and highlight those passages that resonate or that contain something that is valuable or insightful for you. I will also provide questions ahead of time to stimulate your mind and direct your attention to certain aspects or elements of the work. Then every other weekend, I hope to host live Zoom sessions where everybody who's following along can jump in, share their favorite passages, and just talk about the book in general. And yes, I'm doing all of this free of charge as a public service and out of love for Marcus and Stoic philosophy. Happy birthday, Marcus! I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the man, the book, and the philosophy. And ahead of this first book, I'd like to prime you a little bit. As you're reading along or listening to my narration of Book 1, I'd like you to think about the examples that Marcus is providing. Book 1 is essentially the author's acknowledgments. It's all about Marcus giving thanks to the people and to the events that formed him into the person that he is, or that he was. So he goes through a long list of all the different people in his life that influenced him, and he says what he learned from them, what he got from them, how he is better for having known them. And so as you're reading this first book, I'd like you to think about which examples speak to you. You know, out of all the people that influenced and helped Marcus, which ones embody qualities that you yourself admire? In other words, who among these people might serve as good examples for you if you were looking for exemplars or for role models to guide your actions and your thoughts and your words? So tune in tomorrow, April 27th, for the first book of the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, and be sure to tune in on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel for updates, commentary, and then obviously for the date of our live session, which I think will be probably in 2 weeks' time. Hope you can join us for all of that fun stuff. Hope you can read along, and hopefully you get something out of this book, which has for me been such a major influential part of my life. Alrighty, that's all I got for you. So I will see you on the next episode or whenever you can make it. Until then, live well, my friends.